All right, hello. Now, we've got a lot to get through today, so no cruise stories from me today, all right? Although we did just go on one. We went to the tennis, all right? I came back and immediately booked another one, okay? So I'm still in love with them. All right, so a couple of weeks ago, we did about a couple of weeks on what our values are, what we're known for, or what we want to be known for as a church. Things like honouring each other and respect and the bigger table idea. So today, I want to talk about something that we are not, and something that if we let go, if we don't resolve, it can tear things down, and it can be a poison. It can spread through everything. It can spread through families and friendships and marriages and churches and split them up and undo years of good work. All right, sounds pretty dramatic, right? Big build up there. It's better be good. Well, I mean, you can see what it is, right? It's right there. Spoiler alert. Offence. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Right, so about 15 years ago, a friend of mine lent me a book. So shout out to my friend Ainsley who lent me the book. All right, the book was called The Bait of Satan, and right, got fans, got Bait of Satan fans. So it's a book about entirely about offence. It's about offence that we hold personally and the effect it can have on the church. Now, in my phone, I have a list of books, because if people tell me, "Oh, you should read this book's great," I will put it on my list. Now, the list is very long because I never go to the trouble of finding or buying any of those books. It just gets longer and longer over the years. I have every good intention. You'll tell me, I'll write it down. I'll be like, that sounds great. And then nothing happens. Right? So in this case, the person lent me the book. They actually put it in my hand. Now, in that case, I'll probably read it because I want to be a book giver backer, right? Or the worst kind of people are the people you lend a book to, or remember, DVDs or whatever, you'd lend it to them. You never see it again. So I'm a book giver backer, so I feel the pressure. I'm going to get it back to you in 2 weeks. All right? I'll read that thing. All right, so this one I actually read. And it's just all about holding offence and the damage it can do. So if this message speaks to you, there's some follow-up for you. You can go and read that book. Or at the very least, put it on a list in your phone and never read it, okay? All right, now, funnily enough, I had been thinking about offence at the time because a year or two before, I'd heard a message in church from, there was a guest speaker from about a medium-sized church somewhere in America, Texas or something, and his message was about offence. And he told this story about this chain of events that pretty much split his church. Right? Now, it's 20 years ago, so I'm probably making half of this up. But it went something like this. So, like every church, they had volunteers. They had volunteers who do whatever, music, ushers, etc., etc. And to thank them, every week they would get a box of donuts, and they would put the box of donuts in the kitchen, just for everybody. But here's what happened. The band gets here first, so... yeah, classic band, yeah. So they would innocently have a donut, right? And then everyone else who turn up would have a donut. But then for the later people, they'd all be gone. And there'd just be a big empty box full of sugar dust. So they thought, well, how are we going to solve this, okay? So they put a sign on it. Oh, and people would leave a mess. So whoever had the last one, they would never clean it up. So they put a sign on it and said, please be considerate, only take one donut. But this did not help. It made no difference. The later people would come and be taunted by an empty box full of sugar and glaze. just looking at them, saying, what could have been? Right? This is not working. So they thought, okay, not working at all, we'll just stop doing the donuts altogether. Well, this triggered a lot of people. The people coming early felt that they'd been accused of hoarding donuts. Everybody thought, it's not my fault, I'm doing the right thing. And some people were just mad that it wasn't cleaned up, or they were accused of not cleaning up. They were like, I wasn't the last one there, why should I wipe it down? So for a variety of reasons, people took this very personally and got deeply offended. So after not very long, so this guest speaker said, after many pointless discussions, gossiping, factions formed, taking sides in the great donut debate, 3 or 4 families left the church. They just couldn't get over it. So this is the thing about offence. It starts small and it starts over stupid things and it can spiral. So my wife Tracy and I, we were thinking about this at the time, and we decided we just want to not be offended, right? 'Cause it just seems like the sort of thing where it just seems to hurt yourself and other people. So we will simply not do it. We will try to be unoffendable. Also, easily offended people, they're a bit of a pain to be around, aren't they, right? And we also decided we didn't want to do that. They're a lot of effort. So we didn't want to be that. So we thought of it this way. We don't do offence. It's just something that we don't do. It's not part of who I am. It's not part of my identity. Like, we've all got these sort of things. Like, I'm a vegetarian, right? I have been for a long time. Right? I just don't do meat, right? Now, you can if you want. I don't care, right? But I'm not the least bit tempted. Right? It's not part of who I am. I don't miss it. It's just not a thought. I'll tell you something else I don't do. I don't do paintball. Paintball, right? I went to paintball once and I absolutely hated it. I was very excited because on the surface it looks like this is awesome. This is going to be like a video game. This is going to be like the James Bond GoldenEye game, but in real life. But it turns out it's actually a bit more like World War I trench warfare, but in real life. It's absolutely harrowing, right? All you get is like a whole lot of trauma from having to hide, and like you feel like you're in a war, and you get bruises. You literally get these huge welts. So I don't do paintball. I simply don't do it, right? So Tracy and I, we decide we don't do offence. Now, to be fair, that was not that hard for us because we are pretty easygoing in the first place. But over the years, it's gone quite well. Now, I am a bit worried in sharing this that someone might see this as a challenge or an open invite, right, to see if you can offend us, okay? So I don't want anyone to make that your mission. If people start being really mean to me after this, right, please, okay. So this is what I want for us as a church. This is what I want to be. I don't think we even need to have it to say it as one of our values. It's just something we don't do, right? It's not who we are. We do not want to let the bait of Satan get its hooks into us. All right, give me the next one, please. Okay, Hebrews 12:14. Make every effort to live in peace with everyone and be holy. Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. So this is instructions for Christians and for the church. So first of all, interesting to note that make every effort to live in peace with everyone. Now, it's not possible, make every effort. It's not possible, obviously, to live in peace with everybody. So we can only control ourselves. We do what we can. That's a little side note. Now, it talks here about a bitter root that can grow up. Now, doesn't the Bible love its plant metaphors? We got vines, we got trees, we got olives, we've got all these sort of things. Loves it. And this one, the plant, is bitterness. What's the root? The root is the hurt and offence. It's the hurt and offence that we can hold, and then the bitterness grows out of that. So hurt left unresolved becomes offence. Offence which is allowed to flourish becomes bitterness. And what does bitterness do? Right at the end there. It grows up to cause trouble and defile many. So how about if we could cut it off from the source, right? Plant can't grow without its roots. So we can cut it off from the source. All right, let's define our terms here. What do we mean specifically by offence? So I think it is the hurt or the ill will that we hold in ourselves towards someone that we think has wronged us due to their actions, words, non-actions, non-words, whatever. But it's in us, and it's the hurt that we hold. It's the grievance that you feel justified in feeling, right? It's the holding, not the feeling, right? Sometimes people will say stuff to us that's true, or they've got the best of intentions, or maybe they say it clumsily, or maybe we take it the wrong way, or maybe sometimes it's not about you at all, right? And sometimes we will just feel a hurt and we'll hold it. We'll hold that offence. All right, now, I want to just stress what offence is not, right? It is not it's not the instinctive reaction of hurt that we feel when we get wounded, right? Either intentionally or unintentionally, right? It's like when you hear a loud noise, or you're in the movies and there's a jump scare and you jump, right? That's the same thing. That's the initial hurt feeling, right? It's like with sin when you're tempted to do wrong things. It's not the temptation, right? It's the follow through. It's the stewing on it all. Okay. So for example, right? I'm at the supermarket, right? You know, self-checkouts. We've got self-checkouts now. So you take your fruit and veg. You take your fruit and vegetable up, and you're scanning your items, and you put your fruit and veg on, and you've got to weigh it yourself. So I put it on the thing. I've got to get dates, right? Dates are on my shopping list. These dates, $25 a kilo they are. $25. They're tiny little things, but they weigh a fair bit, all right? Then, so you put it on the scale thing, and then you've got to select it. You've got to select it yourself, and it's alphabetical, right? So you go to D. I go to D, and there are dates. $25 a kilo. Oh, but what's next after D? There's E. Oh, there's eggplants. Eggplants are on special. They're only $2.99. You know what I could do? Do you know what I could do here? I could just, whoops. Oh, I pressed the wrong one. Save myself a fortune, right? Am I the only person who's... right? I think I know it's so stupid, but I think to myself, this is the perfect crime. It's a victimless crime. The Woolworths Corporation will survive this financial hit, right? I could just press the wrong one and next item, right? So, anyway, all that to say, it's not the thought is not the wrong bit, it's the execution. So in the same way, with offence, it's not the hurt, it's the holding, right? We all get hurt, right? We all get wounded from time to time by either intentionally or unintentionally. All right, not the idea, but the follow through. All right, it's not the ouch bit. Okay, give me the next one here. Have I got 1 Corinthians? Okay, that's all right. All right. Well, in any case, it's a very short verse from 1 Corinthians 13, which is the list of what love is and isn't. And one of them is love keeps no record of wrongs. And I think that sums it up kind of nicely, because that's what we can do. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, it keeps no record of wrongs. So that's kind of what we can do, is we can keep a list, right? We can keep a record of, I've been wronged here and I've been wronged there. That's partly what offence is. It's holding it and keeping it in our minds and not letting it go. All right, now quick disclaimer here. Like, I know some hurts that we have are very deep and they're very lifelong, and they might have come from long ago, or great trauma, and they're very difficult to get rid of. So I acknowledge that, and I know most of my examples are pretty minor, but we've got to do it. You've got to do it. It's worth it, and if we don't resolve it, no matter how big or small it is, it will eat us up, and it will destroy the relationships in our lives. Okay, next one is why does offence happen, right? It's kind of obvious that it's not a great idea. We know that holding on to these things isn't great. It's obvious. So why do we do it? It must be fulfilling some other need within us. So I've got a few suggestions, all right? First one is, we have very high expectations of other people, right? We're all terrible people at times, and we all say dumb, thoughtless things. We get angry, we all get frustrated, but for some reason, our standard for how other people should treat us is ridiculously high, basically perfection, right? We're just setting ourselves up for offence in that scenario, because everyone you know, if you know them long enough, they'll eventually say something loose or something hurtful or accidentally exclude you or not invite you to something or goodness knows what, right? And you will have an opportunity to be offended, right? Everybody. So if we expect everybody to treat us how we think they ought all the time, we're setting up for a fall. But our expectations are too high. All right, second one, I think sometimes we assume negative intent from people. So, especially in church here, right? We all mean well. We can assume that we're all doing the best we can with what we have. We're all sinners saved by grace, right? And as churches, we intentionally want broken people to come in here, right? And they're going to come in and probably say dumb things and hurt us, and maybe they're not as far down the road as us, their spiritual life or whatever, right? So, I mean, very occasionally, you'll find sort of evil and malicious people who are just straight up nasty. But mostly, we've got to assume that people mean well. And if they've said something and it's hurt us, well, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe, is there a way that they meant it where it wouldn't be so hurtful, all right? So life's hard for everybody. We're all doing our best, okay? So let's not assume negative intentions. All right. Loving drama. Now, it's fun to have something to be mad about sometimes. Sometimes we like the emotion. We're like, it feels good. Someone's hurt us. It's not a deep hurt. It's a low level or a medium one. And it's fun to stew on it. And we can plot revenge. And you can run scenarios through in your head of like, oh, when they said this, I should have said this zinger, and that would have solved it, right? Well, I do that anyway. Like when and weeks later, you're like, perfect comeback, perfect. Oh no, it's the opportunity's gone. All right. I read one article that said if you stew on things like past hurts long enough, it can actually get to the point where it creates like a dopamine hit in your head, and you are inventing offences, or you're twisting things, or you like the rush of feeling mad. So I reckon very small people are kind of addicted in a way to the drama, but we all like it a bit. We all like it a bit sometimes, right? So another one is self-righteousness. So we all like to be the heroes. We all like to be the good guys. And if I've got reasons why I don't like why this person's wronged me and this person's terrible and this person said that, then maybe, I'm better. I'm better than everyone else, right? So I think it sometimes can feed our feeling of self-righteousness. And the last one is holding offence can remove responsibility. It removes responsibility from us. So if things haven't turned out like I hoped, or some part of my life is not going well, or it's a bit of a mess, then I can blame somebody. It doesn't have to be on me, and it doesn't have to be on me to fix it. Right? I don't have to do the hard work because this person hurt me or that person said that. So the mean people who wronged me are responsible, not me. All right, so as I'm reading these, right, maybe someone popped into your mind. You're like, oh yeah, classic, that's classic Brad, he loves the drama or whatever, right? Well, don't think about them. I'm not talking about them, I'm talking about you, okay? Think about yourself, all right? Because it's too easy to sit here and think, oh yeah, that's other people, isn't it? Because I reckon we've all got a bit of some of those in us from time to time, okay? All right, was that a bit harsh? That seemed a bit harsh, didn't it? All right, let's take a little breath, okay? I'm not normally this mean, okay? All right, next we've got bad responses. understandable responses, but bad ways that we can respond to hurt feelings inside us. It can be in us, it's growing, and it wants out. So here are ways to not do it, right? 1, revenge. Romans 12 says, straight up, do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. Right? Pretty clear. I don't see how you can get that wrong, right? So, I'm watching the movie The Dark Knight. You know, the Batman one with the Joker. This guy, Batman, he is consumed by vengeance, right? It's his whole life. His parents died, he hasn't got over it, and he's taking it out on the criminal underworld of Gotham, right? He's obsessed. We are not Batman. We can't be If anyone's Batman, God is Batman, right? He's our Dark Knight. He is doing the avenging, right? Right? But here's the crazy thing. He does it in his time and his way, not ours. So revenge. Not our job. All right, here's one I don't think helps, is attacking and confronting. Now, there are Bible ways to deal with disputes, but they're really gentle. And they're a many-stage process that takes it through and treats everybody with great respect and gives everybody an opportunity. So sometimes if you're a confrontational sort of person, you might be tempted. You might be tempted to want to bowl up to the person, right? Not always a great strategy to go and get stuck into them because they might not even know. They might not even know they've hurt you. Or maybe this is just going to inflame the situation. Look, to be honest, I'm not sure about that one because sometimes it is best to resolve things one-on-one, but I think generally you've got to make sure you're in the right frame of mind. Otherwise, you're just going to go and escalate a situation that may not have even existed for that person before. All right? So not always the best strategy. Now, here is one that I think is the most damaging, and it is gossip. So if somebody has wronged us, we're very tempted to want to tell everybody because we want them to share in our pain and our annoyance and our hurt, right? We want to tell everyone so they can be as outraged as we are about the situation. And sometimes you get a bonus that everybody feels sorry for you and you become the victim in the situation, right? This, I think, is the most poisonous one because it takes small problems, it gets them big, and this is the sort of thing that creates sides and factions because now you've got your group against the other person or whatever. So, and before you know it, you've got a family or a friendship or a church split over something like donuts, right? That's how these things end up. All right, now, of course, there is a difference between taking a hurt or something where you've been wronged and sharing it in like a counselling or a friendship type situation. So I'm not talking about that, right, with trusted people where that's going to be a vault. It's not going to get out of there. But I'm talking about the one where it's just straight up gossip, where we just want to let people know, how wronged we've been. Okay? All right. Next one is the right response. Okay. Firstly, and so I think if we do these, we will get a far better outcome and we'll be able to deal properly with our offence, all right? So, first one is we can assume good intentions. Let's at least consider maybe it's a misunderstanding. Maybe we can laugh it all off and say, oh, that was funny. That person said it the wrong way. I'm sure, I don't know what they meant. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Maybe we can assume that they meant well, right? Because maybe they did. Or maybe they didn't mean it at all. Or maybe they weren't even talking to you, talking about you. All right, so maybe we can just laugh it off. All right, the second correct response, I think, is to just choose not to. Like we said, I don't do offence. It can't get a hold of me if I'm not the sort of person who does that sort of thing, who holds on to it, right? It's like paintball. You invite me to paintball, I'm not going. I'm simply not going, right? I hate it, right? So in the same way, if I hate offence and it's not part of me, and I've seen the damage it causes, and I simply don't want it in me, right? It's not just not gonna lodge, right? It's just not gonna land. Or here's an idea: you could pray about it, right? You can say, "Look, God, I've got this hurt. I've got this hurt. Maybe it is a genuine one, and you can say, God, help me deal with it. Can I give this to you, please, God?" And he probably will. He'll probably take it. He does that sort of thing. So I think a decision to be intentional about not when we feel the hurt welling up or lodging in our hearts, we can be intentional about letting it go. All right. Third one is forgiveness, and I've put a maybe here because, now I don't have time to go into it, but forgiveness and offence are slightly different things. They're like cousins, but they're kind of different things, okay? So they are related. But so, very briefly, I think the offence is the thing within us, right? It's the hurt within us. And the forgiveness or unforgiveness is the debt owed. So it's the transaction between the two, right? We don't have time for that. Okay, because that's quite a long, a fine distinction. But you just have to trust me, okay? They're different, all right? Just believe me. Okay, so if it is appropriate and possible to forgive someone, do that. Do that, because you'll get a bonus there. If there's a genuine, and this is only in the situations where there's a genuine wrong, right? If this is an accidental offence or the other person doesn't know about it, then I'm getting into the weeds of forgiveness again, okay? No, forget about that, okay? All right, so if we can forgive them, as in release them from the debt genuinely owed, we will probably get the bonus that the hurt will probably lift off too, okay? Or at the very least, yeah, like its toehold will be off, and then we can deal with that much easier. Okay. All right, and the final one, and the one that I personally have found most helpful throughout my life, is empathy and paradigm shifts. So, give us my meme. I was on Instagram and I spotted this, right? Is that too little? Anyway, it says, the heading is, why you should be gentle with people, and the whole thing is someone's life. This little sliver is what you know about it, right? So this to me is one of the keys, because maybe the reason that someone has hurt you is because they are going through a lot, right? Maybe they have some past trauma. Maybe they've had family problems. Maybe they've just got physical issues. Maybe they're in pain. I mean, I get pretty grumpy when I'm sick, I snap at people. Maybe they're hungry. Maybe they just need lunch, right? Sometimes it's as simple as that, right? So there is a concept called a paradigm shift, right? And this is in the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? And sometimes these happen, but you can also manufacture them. So, and the paradigm shift is when you learn some new information about something and it changes the perception of the old information you had, right? So, for example, when I used to work in an office, I worked with this guy. There was this guy called Jonathan, right? And Jonathan was quite young, and he really annoyed me. Like, he was really annoying. And I ended up sitting next to him quite a bit, right? He was not a very good worker, and he would tell these stories all the time about fights and arguments he got in, right? Where he was like, it was like he went and picked a fight, and then he verbally won the battle. So he would say, yeah, and then I said this zinger, and that shut him up and stuff like that. He was, you know those people, right? And so he was the hero in every situation, and almost every story he told was from back when, a couple of years ago, when he was the manager of an EB Games store. So every story was him talking to a customer about a PlayStation or something, right? It was so annoying, right? So months later, he quits, and I was super relieved, right? I was like, oh, good. That guy was a punish to sit next to, right? Then weeks after, I'm talking to another person I work with about Jonathan, and they said, yeah, it is a bit of a sad situation what he's going through for someone so young. And I said, what? What's he going through? So it turns out he was only 26, but a couple of years ago, he'd been diagnosed with some degenerative disease. I can't even remember what it is, but he was basically going to degenerate fairly quickly and then would lose movement and that sort of thing within about 5 to 10 years, right? And he knew this. So suddenly, I've had a paradigm shift, right? Suddenly, I'm thinking, I have no idea what it's like to walk around with that sort of feeling and being so young and carrying that all the time, knowing that the clock is ticking on my life like that. Right? Suddenly, everything, all my annoyance disappeared in a second, and it was replaced with empathy. I just felt sorry for the guy, right? I have no idea what that would be like. Right? So I wish that instead of rolling my eyes every time he sold a story about EB Games, I'd say to him, good on you, mate. Yeah, you tell him about that PlayStation. Yeah, good on you, brother. Right? So here's the thing, though. For a paradigm shift, you don't have to wait, right? There probably is something in here that is causing that person to act like that. Even if they're being real mean to you, right? Even if you are justified in feeling hurt, maybe there's some really good reason, and if you knew what it was, your hurt feelings would seem petty. They would disappear because you see what that person is going through. All right. So, 3 verses to bring us home. So we've got good sense makes one, from Proverbs, good sense makes one slow to anger, and it is his glory to overlook an offence, right? To let him go. With all humility, Ephesians, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace, right? We want to be in unity. We want to be bonded. We want to be in the bond of peace. And do not repay evil for evil. If you're wronged, don't fight back. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, and I like this bit actually, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, because it doesn't always depend on us, but we can control what's inside ourselves, live at peace with everybody. All right? So, what is the theme of all these? Don't fight amongst yourselves. Be gracious to each other and bear with one another. All right? The other week we were talking about how all men will know that you are my disciples, that you love one another. Well, being offended at each other is the opposite of that. That is the complete opposite. And frankly, it's quite embarrassing and a terrible look to the world if we are infighting. We're supposed to be the people that love each other and that love the most. And if we're fighting, we look quite silly, and we make God look silly. Right? The other thing is, we need each other. We've got a job to do here. Right? We've got a church to run and grow and thrive and a community to impact. We can't be doing that if we're infighting and if we're all cheesed off at each other all the time because of something that someone said or something that someone did years ago. So let's always be gracious, right? And let's decide that around here we don't do offence. Right? The end.